Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social Podcast. We're here in Hulst for the 2026 Cyclocross World Championships. It's a Thursday training day, first session of the course after the UCI inspected it this morning. And with me here to discuss and give you a short update is Patrick.
Hey Noah, happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. It's been a bit cold today. There was some snow this morning when I drove from home to here, but there was no snow here. The soil is a little bit wet, but overall a relatively fast course still, Patrick.
Yeah, it's still pretty fast. If it warms up here, there's an opportunity for it to get sloppy. The weather's kind of been off and on in the forecast. Maybe there's rain, maybe there's not rain. So we'll see how that plays out. But there's potential here for it to get a little more sloppy, a little less tack.
I think on this course, the slightest bit of rain is already of really vital influence on the course. Like you have some courses, you know, if you're in Merksplas, a little bit of rain or Hogerheide, it doesn't really change it. But here, like if you look at these courses here, the top layer is already gone. It's just a bit of dirt right now. You have a lot of these steep uphills, and you saw last year, there was never more than a drizzle in that race for the World Cup. But as that drizzle progressed throughout the women's race, it got technical and even more technical, such that Niels van der Putten could win based on his technical skills, while Felipe Ors was arguably stronger physically.
Yep. Yeah, and like you said, the top layer came off this course in the first 45 minutes of pre-ride. So we're going to continue to see it evolve in the next 2 days. There's one race tomorrow with the relay, more training sessions tomorrow. So the evolution will happen. We'll see on Saturday morning what the course kind of starts to play out as.
Let's go over that course section by section. First, the start-finish straight. It's quite short, so it really becomes important to have that first getaway like dialed and right. Not just because the start-finish straight is short, it's a fast right-hander into the field. And within no time, you come on the section we're looking at right over there.
Yep.
And you immediately come to the first bottlenecks. It's off cambers, it's corners. It's what you know from the Hulst course from last year. The first section has changed a bit, but in nature and feeling, it's still the same. It's these steep banks, you go up and down, corners. It's just so important to stay positioned. And if you have a bad start, find yourself 20th. Then by the time you come here and you can really start moving up, you can easily be 25 seconds down already.
Yeah, in the first part of the course, you take some quick turns. It shouldn't be too tight over there. Then there's one drop and then just a complete straight up. And as soon as you hit that straight up, the first few riders will likely make it through on their bike, but then everybody else is going to be running. So you need to be in that first 5 to 10 riders. Otherwise, you're going to be 20 seconds behind to start the race.
So, and of course, the preview podcast, we discussed a large number of riders. Hey, what are their strengths and vulnerabilities? And if you look in the youth categories, for instance, junior woman, Barbora Bukowska, major risk this. Like if her getaway is not that good, then she's immediately in trouble, and it will be a much tougher ask to do what she did last year in Louvain. That course was wide. It didn't really have that bottleneck early on. There were a few steep run-ups, and I think that's kind of my main feeling right now. Like for the first time in 5 years, we have a world's course with real features, like then in Ostende with a big bridge. And since it's not necessarily that the courses have been bad, but they didn't have like a standout feature, and now you have this drop here or this climb, the drops, but even this whole part here is a lot more technical than what we have seen in recent years.
Yeah, we've had a trend of a few power courses in the recent years, and this course has power sections, we've talked about that, but there's also some very technical sections. So like you said, run up. There's two pretty big drops. One is kind of has a straight run, and the other one takes a hard left afterwards. So bit of a different course, it definitely more technical, and it'll be interesting to see if that changes what we see in the results.
So when you're talking about those big features, they are more situated in the middle of the lap roughly. So that first part, you had that straight up that you said. Then you're going to sweep back around to where the barriers used to be up here. That's been now moved to the VIP tent, but still very technical. I suppose one advantage is if you have a mechanical in the first part of the lap here, the pit is quite close by, unlike say Fayetteville, where the first pit was quite far into the lap. And you saw, for instance, Ian Eckert in that junior race there really needing to run quite far and then recovering to 7th place.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's really interesting how everything lays out. You're going to be quick into this run up over here though, so it'll be interesting to see how things sort out through this section into the run up, because then once here you're going to start seeing a lot of field spread. You're going to see, less opportunities to pass because there's kind of quick turns up through here. It'll be interesting to kind of see how the race turns out.
And when we mention the weather, I think this feature here is just one of them where a little bit of rain means that the speed coming in is quite low, because we just saw a Czech guy go up here. He rode roughly 2/3, 75% up, and you're seeing that on quite a lot of these features, especially in like the men's categories. A lot is rideable, and even the steep one at the end, which everybody thought would be just the run-up that we saw the steep downhill in the other years. Right after this pontoon section, you thought, well, maybe that is going to be the steep run-up that we see on the pictures from Hulst every year, but we saw Owen Sparfell ride up that today already.
Yep. Yeah, like you said, lots of pedaling through here. So you have a drop over here, it's not on camera, but then it's all pedaling. So if this softens up and gets a little more difficult, it's gonna be a big power output to again get into a run up. So you're not gonna get as high on the run, you're gonna have to get off the bike earlier. And there's really there's two, kind of lines you can take over here. One's definitely a priority, you can see it cut in right now. But the far left run is gonna be a little bit trickier too. So once you're on the bike though at the top, then you're into more technical turning. So interesting to see, a lot of pedaling through this section, a lot of power output, not much of an opportunity to rest.
Because that's really the middle part of the course. After you've done this whole section in front here with these steep hills, you cross the pontoon over there, you come to this run up or a ride up. And one thing that's worth noting, that while this section of the course is perhaps easier than you would expect, you would think, maybe it's a run from the bottom, it does introduce a different type of technicality, because you're seeing that on these steep uphills you need to dismount, and dismounting on such steep sections is quite difficult. Is your timing off, then you might fall back 3-4 steps backwards before you can even really start running up again.
No, and then to what you said earlier, positioning, if you're behind a rider that has that happen to them, now you're stuck too. And so getting in a correct position and being far enough forward so that you're past the clutter, because we're going to see clutter in the first lap through the section. So it'll be vital to get a good start and get to this first run up in a good position so that you don't get stuck behind the fray.
So that first half of the course is really feature heavy. You go here, you can probably just see on the shot over there a banner which is slightly higher. That's the infield there. There's some corners there again with these bankings, like there's almost no flat here. They're not really technical off-cambers or challenging off-cambers, but it's more up there. Then you're going to come back and take the steep drop, which is fairly easy. It's already quite packed and rutted because of all the kids that have been riding here for the last few days. And then you come back to the pontoon, another steep up, and then you're going to circle back to the you go through a little weird section where there is a little bit of a bush and they put down a bridge, but a bridge drops down and then it's just flat and you ride over this carpet. Then you come back to the next steep uphill. From there, it's a totally different course. From that point, there's 40% of the lap remaining at least. It's just pedaling.
Well, you have to go down that one drop. That's the thing you have to get through. So that's the harder of the two, hard left into the exit. But then you're right, it's all pedaling. There's really no elevation change for the remainder of the lap. There's a staircase kind of, probably about 1K or so before the finish.
And that hill before the stairs is also proving quite difficult for some riders already.
It is. It's kind of more of an off-camber, so you're not hitting it straight on, you're hitting it from the side. So if you don't make it up that, it's directly into the stairs. So if you have to get off the bike at the first hill, you're going to be running for quite a bit.
And those stairs are quite steep, they're quite high. It's about, I think, 24-ish steps. It's almost a bit unnecessary seeing how difficult the course is, especially if it does rain a bit. Then you're easily looking in, well, I think in the elite races already a few dismounts a lap, but if you draw that downwards to, say, the junior woman or woman under 23 race, you're looking at maybe 8 dismounts a lap, because you have the 2 big ones, you have a couple of small ones here, the stairs, there's barriers at the pits, or at the VIP tent, I mean. And I thought it's interesting, at the VIP tent, the course is double taped in case it gets too muddy, that they can simply move the course leftward and take a different trajectory.
Yeah, I actually was thinking that too when I saw the stairs, that another forced off the bike section, I mean, it's a lot, like you said. There's a lot of forced dismounts on this course. Liavon had 2, right? It had 2 staircases, that's all it had. Very, very fast course, power heavy, not much in the technical, off the bike, on the bike kind of thing. Very much the opposite this year. Like you said, some riders might be off the bike 8 times a lap. That's going to take a toll on a lot of riders as you get to the 40, 50, 60 minute, phase of the race.
So I think if you draw it a bit broader and start looking like what rider types this course really suits, it's a bit of both worlds. You have this technical first part, and the mistakes, like that's what will be decisive, not even as much the technical skill, the mistakes and the positioning, because on these steep banks, uphill and downhill, if you are in position, the first one up, this one over here, after you come off the pontoon, it should be rideable quite easily. We saw most riders make it up in all categories. But if you're in second and you need to leave that safety margin and you're worried of smacking into the back wheel of the rider in front of you, then you're just that bit more cautious. You might need to put a foot down, and then the person in third is off the bike, and that's quite quickly a 5-second gap just from one of these sections. But on the other hand, there's also so many places where one small mistake easily costs you 5 seconds. And that's what the first part of the lap is about, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see some races like we had, for instance, at the Belgian Championships, where somebody breaks clear in the first half of the lap based on a technical error by somebody else, but then in the second half, when there's maybe an 8-second gap, he or she really puts down the power and starts cutting into that lead, and all of a sudden you're looking like, oh, I thought this was over, a 10-second gap, but now we're coming to the stairs, and that off camera before, if I make one mistake, the rider is back and I might lose the world title. What do I do? Can I stay calm under that pressure? We could see that in probably at least one race this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for races to kind of ebb and flow. You're going to see probably, like you said, at least one race where you have a clear winner, I'll call it, that ends up having some kind of situation happen in the second half of the race. There's just too many places on this course for something silly to happen, for bad luck to happen, for even like a small group with one mistake that just blows the whole group apart. So it's interesting, and it'll be cool to see a different kind of race, because last year we didn't have it. The year before we also didn't really have it. There's a lot of unexpected things that can happen on this course, and that'll produce some more, in my opinion, interesting dynamic coming out of the races on Sunday.
Yeah, so last year we of course had in the junior men's category a slightly different race than in most other events because of the thawing conditions there. We saw some more technical aspect come into it, pressure changes, but overall, like since Ostende, it's been very much the strongest rider wins in almost all of the categories because the courses were power heavy. Hogerheide was fast and power heavy. Fayetteville was fast and power heavy. Tabor was muddy and power heavy. And then you had Louvain, which was somewhat muddy, but still very straightforward and power heavy. So now we're finally getting to this, and that means also that you need to account for these nuances in these courses for your favorites, because this is not a race that we have had many times this season. Already in the dry, like you say, you can put a foot down, you can mess up here, you can crash, you can slide out, you can't make it up a hill. But if it gets wet, then it becomes even more difficult. The one really hard section that they had for the past 2 years that is out, that was just before you went to the road section where you cut across through the city port. That was one section where we saw a little bit of rain, and in the junior men's race I saw last year, I believe it was Grigolini, try and ride up it. He tried to cut across diagonally instead of following the slightly slower up and then onto the rut. He slid out, wiped way down and lost 15 seconds there. I think that the section before the stairs, that's one of those sections where you could see that as well, because you're seeing riders shoot up directly and then onto the road, and others are trying to cut across more diagonally. And if that gets wet, that is a difficult section.
Yeah, it actually kind of reminds me of that section in Tabor that's near the restaurant where it's kind of like two ups. And there's kind of two lines you can take. You can take it straight on. It might be a little faster, but it's also a lot more risk. So there's several places on this course where there's a risky line and a less risky line. And it'll be interesting to see as things evolve, is risk, what's the risk tolerance for a lot of riders? And should you take the risky line and have something happen, I mean, races can change very quickly when that occurs.
Then if you needed to say like what would be distinctive here, power or technical skills, how would you go and make your conclusions based on the course walk today?
Oh, it's both. It's both. So there's definitely a lot of power. So if you're a rider that doesn't have a big power profile, it's going to be tricky because there's a lot of pedaling. If it gets warmer, like we said, it's going to slow down most likely. And that's going to make huge sections like the one we're standing in front of be quite a bit of a slog. That said, if you don't have the technical ability, there are a million places here where you can get caught out. So you got to merge the technical, the power, and also luck. I think luck's going to be a big one, because if you're behind riders that make mistakes, if you are out of position slightly, if you have a moment where you're not focusing, anything can happen, and then races can change very quickly.
So do you hope for rain?
Well, for my cameras, no. But yes, for the race, I do hope for rain.
Yeah, and like I said, there's not much rain needed for this to become tricky, and that I think is kind of the sweet spot. Like last year, the drizzle there was, it took its toll on the people alongside the course throughout the day, but it also wasn't horrible, and it made for quite treacherous racing. Whereas this course, if it had rained all week, or if it's still going to rain all weekend, then it becomes really, really difficult. This section here in the past has also been, when you came down here from the left where the pontoon is now, from there till the run up, a run. Now we have a whole nother section of this later on in the lap. If that would also be a run, then this course becomes almost too hard, which is exactly why at the VIP tent they double tape the course, because that's another field. If it rains, it's flooded, and then you're looking all of a sudden at a old school World Championships from Lembeke, when the Belgians came in with their tractors, plowed the entire course, so the Belgian who was good at running could win.
No, that's a good point. That field is, you basically just do a big horseshoe around it.
Yeah.
And if that gets sloppy, it's a lot of running or a lot of very slow pedaling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the course can change, as we know, in an instant. And right now, it's kind of in the middle towards fast.
Yeah.
So it'll change. But the interesting thing is that we see World Cup weekends like Hoogerheide last weekend, 5 races a day. This one's 3 races a day for 2 days. Does that affect how the course changes? Probably. Less riders a day.
But more pre-riding than
more
for a
pre-riding.
World Cup, so that does take its toll. All the riding that's going on now, the riding that will happen in the next few days. So no event sees more pre-riding than the World Championships. So it will be a good one. And yeah, the field, if it's muddy, you need to give the VIP factory a good look close by of the riders suffering by in slow motion. So
yeah, and no need for barriers in there. That was an added bonus, but it really isn't needed.
No, but for the second half of the course, it kind of breaks it up a little nicely from just power. So I guess it adds something, but it's the ledge, 35 centimeters, so it's not the most difficult ones. But
no.
Could see some nice racing there. I think that will round it off for this one. Patrick, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And we will be back tomorrow to cover the relay, probably from this exact same spot. See you guys then. Goodbye.
Bye.